Washington Journal continues.
Welcome back. Former Michigan Congressman and former Intelligence Committee Chair Peter Hoekstra joins us this morning to discuss the recent Wikileaks release of CIA hacking documents. Thanks so much for being with us.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
And as you well know, Wikileaks this week released what it says are roughly 8,000 web pages and other documents revealing the CIA's hacking methods. On the face of it, how damaging is this breach?
I think it's very, very damaging. This is a situation where we now have an intelligence community that really is in crisis. Obviously, it has its own internal problems where you see this kind of massive release or this massive breach of its systems. The other thing that you have is you have an intelligence community now that has a crisis of confidence with the American people. The American people are wondering, how does this happen? This is now the third time. We had the breach from Bradley Manning, we had the breach from Edward Snowden, and now we've got this breach of the CIA. So you've got an intelligence community that is kind of in free fall with the American people wondering, what's going on? How come our spies can't keep secrets? We have a spy community that cannot keep secrets. That's not good.
So what more should be done, do you think, to safeguard the CIA's secrets?
Well, there's a couple of things that need to happen. Number one, there's a question as to why the CIA even had this type of cyber capability. It used to be that all of this cyber kind of capability, that was the responsibility of the NSA. I guess there's now 4 different intelligence communities that or 4 different parts of the intelligence community that are kind of duplicating their own capabilities. So you've got 4 areas that you have to protect. And the question is, why are we creating these little fiefdoms all over the intelligence community? Why don't we have it in one central place so that we've only got one real area that we've got to protect where we do this kind of work? There's also been reports that the systems within the CIA, old computers, old computer systems, old security mechanisms. Clearly, if you want to be the premier cyber warrior in the world today, you need to make the proper investments. So I think Congress is going to have to take a look at this and determine whether the proper investments have been made to make sure that our systems are up to date. And the third thing you need to do is, obviously, you got to go back and take a look at the procedures that you have in place. Is the culture right? Are the procedures right? Do we have the best tools in place to protect our data?
You know, why can't or why hasn't the government so far been able to shut down Wikileaks?
Well, I mean, Wikileaks clearly is very good at what they do. The second question is, has that been a priority, or has an administration, has an executive branch agency been given the authority or the directive to shut down Wikileaks? And the third question is, if you shut down Wikileaks, they still have the data. Do they take that data and just transfer it to someone else? So the real question is, what's the value of shutting down Wikileaks, at least their access to the public, if by shutting them down, they just take this information and move it someplace else and it still gets to the American people?
Former Congressman Pete Hoekstra is our guest this morning. We're talking about this week's release by Wikileaks of what it says are the CIA's hacking methods, and we're, as always, taking your calls. The line for Democrats is 202-748-8000. The line for Republicans is 202-748-8001. And the line for Independents is 202-748-8002. Now, earlier this week, Wikileaks founder Julian Assange held a press conference Thursday, and he discussed what Wikileaks plans to do with the additional information it has on the CIA's hacking tools. Take a listen.
It has a lot more information on what has been going on with the cyber weapons program. And so I want to announce today that after considering what we think is the best way to proceed and hearing these calls from some of the manufacturers, we have decided to work with them to give them some exclusive access to the additional technical details we have so that fixes can be developed and pushed out so people can be secured. And then once this material is effectively disarmed by us, by removing critical components, we will publish additional details about what has been occurring.
Now, if Assange is to be believed, how do you think tech companies should respond to his offer?
Well, I think tech companies should reject his offer. Julian Assange is a terrible individual. The stuff that he is releasing now makes America less safe. He's revealing what we call sources and methods in the intelligence community. He's telling our enemies what our capabilities are, and he may also be releasing to them exactly how we accomplish what we do, how we go out and steal data. That is what spy organizations are expected to do, whether they work for the U.S. government, whether they work for the Russian government, the Chinese government, or someone else. They go out and they try to find the plans and intentions of what their enemies are. And there are no indications that the CIA or other parts of our intelligence community have done anything wrong or that they've used these tools against Americans. But Julian Assange is making America less safe each and every day. The tech companies, I don't believe, will work with him, and I hope they don't.
Let's take a few calls. We have Sean calling in from Key West, Florida on the Independent line. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Yes, as a former investigative broadcast journalist, I would like to posit that we're approaching this from the wrong direction. We should be looking not to shoot the messenger, but to find out if the message is correct, that these people might have been using these devices to actually penetrate the American population. You take a look at Bradley Manning, the things that he pointed out were terrible. They go against everything the American people stand for, actually murdering people. And he pointed those things out, and he goes to jail for that. You have Mr. Snowden, who points out that the NSA is heavily involved in monitoring the people and the freedoms of the United States. And now we have Wikileaks, and we want to shoot the messenger again. We need to find out if these people are actually doing these types of things. I would point out to you, gentlemen, as having been a student traveling in Europe after the Second World War, that those people in Germany, I asked them about the Jewish question, and they said there was nothing they could do about it. It's the same thing that we as Americans are doing now. We're involved in wars that are killing millions of people, and if you stop anyone on the street, they will tell you, I'm sorry. There's absolutely nothing we can do about it. Again, I posit we're looking at this question from the wrong direction, and I'll take my response off the air. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the comment, Sean. The interesting thing here is that Bradley Manning, Edward Snowden, and we don't know who did this last leak of the CIA data. Bradley Manning and Edward Snowden, if they believe that if the American intelligence community was violating American law, they could have gone to the Intelligence Committee in the Senate or in the House of Representatives and brought those issues forward. They decided not to. Those are treasonous activities. They had other channels where they could have brought their complaints or their concerns to be investigated and be investigated in a proper manner, and they decided not to do that. I share some of your concerns. An intelligence community that does not keep its secrets, can't keep its secrets, indicates something, an organization that does not have proper controls in place. Where I get concerned is, does that mean that when James Clapper comes out, the former director of national intelligence, and says to the American people, I know that these tools that we have in the intelligence community to spy on foreigners, which is our job, I can with a high degree of certainty tell you that those tools are not used against Americans. I'm sorry, at this point in time, the leadership of the intelligence community cannot with any type of credibility make those claims. We know it's against the law to spy on Americans. We know that, I know, and I've met these people, that it's very much against the culture of the people in the intelligence community to use these tools against the American people. But the community has demonstrated a lack of internal controls, that we don't have the certainty that there may not be some rogue elements that are using these tools against Americans.
And Congressman, this data breach is one thing, but I have to ask you, why do you think the intelligence community, the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, has a persistent problem, it appears at least, with leaks to the media?
Why they have the problems with the leaks to the media?
Yeah.
You really don't know what the motivations are. Obviously, there was some very sensitive information, some of the most sensitive information that the intelligence community collects, and this is the intercepts of phone calls of Americans overseas. It's called inadvertent collection. This stuff is supposed to be locked up and put away, but someone transcribed it, they distributed it widely through the community, and then someone leaked it to the press. And you don't quite know what their motivations are. Do they have a political angle against the new Trump administration? Do they have an agenda against their own agency that they may work for? It's hard to determine what the motivation is because the acts are illegal, and in certain cases they make America much less safe, and they make us very, very vulnerable. So yeah, why they behave in that way, it's hard to determine, and until you actually catch these folks and take a look at it, we probably will not know what their motivation is.
Let's go back to the phones. We have Edward calling in from Liverpool, Texas on the Democratic line. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I've been listening to the WikiLeaks scandal for seems like forever now. They're getting their information either from the Russians or other people that are considered our enemies, and then they're handing them over to WikiLeaks, and then WikiLeaks kind of plays games on how they let certain amounts out at a time. It's kind of strange that we would actually believe any of this stuff that could be easily manipulated, change words in a sentence, add this and subtract that. You don't know how much of it's for real. Just, of course, it makes everybody want to listen and see what kind of dirt they dug up. But if you ever really wanted to fix Washington, you might try something really brand new. Try the atheists and the LGBTQ community, and I'll bet they would sit down and get things done, and they wouldn't be fighting over morality of Christianity or morality of the Constitution. They would just do the morality of human beings and get this country up and going again.
Yeah. The interesting thing now is we know that Edward Snowden is listening, or he's listening to this, or he's living in Russia today. There's no indication that when he decided to provide the information to WikiLeaks that he was actually working with or for the Russians. The same with Bradley Manning. And of course, at this point in time, we don't know how the breach occurred within the CIA.
Okay, let's go now to Lester calling in from Newark, New Jersey on the Republican line. Thanks for your patience. Good morning.
Yes, I'm supposed to speak about why Edward Snowden did what he did and why committee did it. If they had kept their eye on him, this would have not happened, you know. And we're in a mess that we're in now because of what he did, and that's wrong, you know. And I'm sick and tired of it, you know. But you know, he's we got to keep an eye on these guys. We got to keep an eye on them so they won't be doing this again. You know, we got to make sure that they don't do the same thing again. You know, because this is bad for our country. You know, this is really bad for our country.
Yeah, I think Lester makes the point that we made earlier, is that the CIA, NSA, and the military intelligence community, they have not had the proper protocols in place so that, you know, as we start seeing patterns of behavior where a Snowden or a Manning are downloading, you know, significant portions of data, and they're provided with access to places that you would think that people in their position shouldn't have access to that data. And so, yeah, not only are we not watching these folks, but we're putting them in positions of access, and we're allowing them to do things that I'm hoping is not happening in companies in the private sector. It appears that the protocols that we have in place in certain parts of the intelligence community have not been appropriate, they've not been effective, and perhaps one of the more disturbing things is You know, you see Bradley Manning and you say, oh man, we've got to go in and we've got to check our protocols. Do we have the right procedures in place to protect large batches of data? We see Bradley Manning. We don't learn from it. We see Edward Snowden. It doesn't appear that we've learned from that, and now we've got the CIA breach. Hopefully we will learn from these mistakes and put in place the better procedures to protect this kind of data, because it's absolutely essential if we want to keep America safe.
I have a question about the politics of this. Given the fact that then candidate Trump said on the campaign trail, "I love WikiLeaks," after the group released damaging emails from John Podesta, who was the former campaign chairman for Hillary Clinton, do you think that in any way limits the White House response to this issue?
I hope not. I mean, I think that the Trump administration and people in the intelligence community are in agreement. This is devastating to the United States of America, and we have to stop it. If we're going to be in the spying business, which I think we have to be in, if we are going to keep America safe, then we need to be very, very good. And part of being a great spy is to be able to keep secrets. Spies who can't keep secrets are a real problem. So if we're going to be there, we have to have the leadership from the top, which includes the president, which includes Mike Pompeo, which includes Dan Coats, who's going to be the new director of national intelligence. And I think that's exactly where they are. They recognize the devastating impact that these leaks have, and it also is a devastating, because the vast majority of the people in the intelligence community, they are committed to this country. Some of them are risking their lives each and every day. This really hurts morale within the community, because they see it as a failure of their agency, of the intelligence community. They don't like seeing it happen. They're going to work with Mike Pompeo. They're going to work with Dan Coats to rebuild the trust that they have in their own organization, the pride that they have in their organization, and they're going to work to restore the link between them and the American people, because they need the American people to know that they are working on their behalf and that an intelligence community is not a threat to the American people. It's only a threat to those who mean us harm.
We've got Mary calling in from North Las Vegas, Nevada, on the Democratic line. What's on your mind?
Yes, I was just calling to say one thing, because I noticed when you start out with lies, it's going to be lies. FBI, CIA, and when Trump got in there, he was lying. So, you know, the Bible says every time you take a lie and wrap it around the truth always come out. And it's been lying ever since, and it's only, and the preachers, if they stay in church and try to get some of these criminals off the street and mind their own business, then this would be a better world. And if the people would stop lying all the time on each other, and then when they get caught in a lie, I'd go for the FBI, CIA, or any of them. But when Trump got in there and started lying, everybody was lying. And then that's what's wrong with America now. Nobody's telling the truth, and I'm scared, and everybody else scared. They don't know what to do, and I think it's trouble. It's going to take God to get us out of this mess. Thank you.
Okay, let's go
well,
to...
the caller saying there's a real mess out there. There is, and this is one of the key things that has to happen. And as we were just talking about, the intelligence community and its leadership has to reestablish its credibility with the American people. We had, the Director of National Intelligence a few years ago come on and testify. It was probably covered by C-SPAN, the hearing where he was asked, is the intelligence community keeping a massive database that may include information on Americans? And he said no. And in reality, a couple of weeks later or a month later, we found out that was an inaccurate statement. He was misleading the senator and the Senate Intelligence Committee and the American people by his answer. Those types of mistakes are devastating to the credibility. An intelligence community has to have the support of the American people if it's going to be successful.
We have a tweet here from someone using the handle StormChase3. He asks, Why do we have 17 different intelligence agencies? Can you explain each role, cost, number of employees? Generally speaking, why are there so many different intelligence agencies?
Well, because they each have their own different roles, and it's really important that they stay in their lane. We have the people who fly satellites, who take images from space, NGA. And that's their specialty. They're very, very good at it. We have the CIA, which really focuses on human intelligence and those types of things. They're good at what they do. We have the NSA, which goes after electronic intercepts, electronic digital type of information. We have the intelligence branches in each of the military services, which is there to provide accurate information intelligence in a more real-time basis to our men and women on the battlefield. And so, that gives you a general feeling for that they each do have specific roles with specific customers or consumers of the information that they provide. Some of them are very much focused on real-time information to protect our people on the battlefield. There are others that are trying to collect more long-term information as to what the plans and intentions, what the capabilities of our enemies are, so that we can plan strategically over the next 3, 5, or 7 years to deal with the kinds of threats that we have. So, you put all of that together, and back in 2004, on a bipartisan basis, we passed an intelligence reform bill that put in place a director of national intelligence that would take these 17 different agencies and make sure that there was some coordination and cooperation between them so that we would get the maximum bang for our buck, and to make sure and to try to minimize overlap or conflicting roles and missions for each of those agencies. So that's why the DNI was established. The question is right. Why 17? I think you can justify them, but let's make sure that they're working together effectively.
We've got Douglas on the line calling in from West Hamlin, West Virginia on the Independent line. Good morning.
Good morning. God bless America. I'd just like to question what CIA's purpose is, what their overall goal is, other than just perpetual war.
Well, the real goal of the CIA is to gather the information that gives us the plans and intentions of what our enemies are intending to do versus the United States. They gather intelligence that we can use on the battlefield, whether it's in Syria, whether it's in Iraq, whether it's in other places around the world. They're trying to get into ISIS and Al-Qaeda to figure out what their plans and intentions are vis-a-vis attacking U.S. facilities around the world, or specifically in the United States. So that is one thing. Actionable information that keeps us safe in real time. The second thing that they do is they go out and they try to get the information that tells us what our primary enemies are capable of and what their plans and intentions are. Really, what are the capabilities of Iran and their nuclear program? What about North Korea? Do we have any insights into the North Korean leadership as to whether they would actually even contemplate using some of the capabilities that they are now developing? That goes into our policymakers, who are then responsible for developing America's policies in terms of keeping us safe. The intelligence community is designed to provide us with information so that our policymakers can make more informed decisions as to what America needs to do.
Catherine calling in from Mobile, Alabama, a Democrat. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning. First of all, sir, I have a couple of points, but my first one is this. I took physics in school. Now, I'm an old lady, so I've been around a long time. I was raised in the 50s and the 60s. So let's talk about why we're getting hacked. The reason we're getting hacked, sir, is you cannot go outside and capture a sun ray and put it in a jar. Any information that goes over the air is vulnerable. You will have a patch for it, sir, and then there will be 10 more people trying to undo it. The technology of this country should be used in addition to our other security. We need to have a closed-loop system for the Pentagon and all important things, sir. Anytime you put it on air, there is no way to hold it. Please understand this. That is very, very important. I do not understand where the brains and the logic in this country has gone, except for to the money train, because technology makes a lot of people a lot of money. And instead, we've got these people testing us right now with this WikiLeaks mess. They're testing us. What if they shut down our systems, sir, all of our systems, our power grid, our water grid? Do you not think that they're going to do this? I know with logic. I am a student of logic. I took it in college. I don't understand how our country has gotten so out of control, except for we've had men running it. Sorry, guys, but y'all have done a terrible situation, made a terrible situation worse. We women need to take over. We need to get this country under control, have pragmatic leadership that does not lie. Donald Trump is a liar. He is the most dangerous thing to our national security. I am sorry, but he is. He is a liar, and so is Mike Pence. We saw it on TV yesterday. Mike Pence came out and said he did not know of this information when Elijah Cummings had written that man a letter and sent it to him back in November. This has got to stop. I'm with the lady that called in from Nevada or wherever she was. The lion, the lion, the lion. That is the threat to our country, sir.
A couple of points here. The first is, according to WikiLeaks, the CIA system was a closed loop. So they actually got into about the most sensitive and secure place within the CIA. I'm not in government. I'm not on the Intelligence Committee anymore. I don't know whether that is accurate or not. The second point that you make is, I think, X is an excellent point, which is talking about, the breaches that we've had today with Manning, Snowden, and now the CIA have been about losing data. That really hurts, and it hurts the capabilities of our intelligence community. It also points out that on the cyber battlefield, America doesn't appear to dominate the same way that it dominated the traditional battlefield of smart bombs, and those types of things, stealth bombers and those. On the traditional battlefield, America is the best in the world, and no one disputes it. Russia and China, they're challengers, but we're better than they are. On the cyber battlefield, we not only have to deal with Russia and China, but people like Iran, which is a threat to us. They're very good on the cyber battlefield. Israel, which is an ally, they're very good on the cyber battlefield. Then you have to worry about people like North Korea and non-state actors like ISIS. They're not as good overall in cyber, but they may have very specific areas where they are good. And the point that you make is something that I worry about very much. Cyber is the wild, wild west. There's no rules in cyber about what people may do to each other. And yes, they can come in and potentially take down part of our grid, attack a nuclear plant, take down part of our financial system. I believe we're very vulnerable, and one of these days someone is going to attack part of that system, and we may not know who it is. The cyber battlefield is the great equalizer. We are not the premier, the best cyber folks in the world. We are good, but there's others that are probably our equal, so we should be very, very worried about that. In terms of the political comments that you've made about Mike Pence, Donald Trump, I'm sorry. These are honorable people. These are people who we elected to be our president. And I hope that, personally, I hope that Democrats start recognizing that we have elected a president and that we start working in a process rather than being the resistance, and that we actually recognize we need to work together and get some things done. And I think Mike Pence and especially Donald Trump are about getting things done, about immigration, national security, and those types of things. And I hope that Democrats Democrats start working with Republicans and rather just being a resistance movement. And finally, about putting women in charge of everything in America will be great. I'll pass on making any comments on that.
Okay, our final call for this half hour comes from Mindy in St. Paul, Minnesota. She's a Republican. Good morning.
Good morning. I agree with the lady as far as Mr. Hoekstra does. This has become a real dangerous situation we're in now with the data loss. And I've been following this pretty closely, and most of it is the CIA. And when they had this breach of the data this time, there was a contract with Apple, Samsung, Google, and there were other affiliations that the CIA was supposed to inform them so they could knock down some of the issues that were going to occur. They did not. The CIA did not. They also said that now that all this data was taken, anybody could put rumors, plant stuff, and there would be no fingerprints on the data. So that if they want to go in and put something on Russia and Trump now, they can, and nobody would know it. And then, as well as Obama, before he left office, he signed in 16 more departments that could have access to all the secret and confidential data. Well, we knew, and he knew, that this would create more leaks. Oh, really? That's why all of a sudden the leaks are that they're wiretapping? I feel that was to cover that up.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing that's been happening with the intelligence and the data that we gather that I think is making us more vulnerable in terms of having additional leaks occur. You'll remember right after 9/11, there was a talk about the wall between foreign intelligence and domestic law enforcement, and because they weren't communicating effectively, it was one of the reasons perhaps that we didn't prevent 9/11. So after 9/11, we put walls into that door to allow the intelligence community to provide data to domestic law enforcement if it related to terrorism or compelling national security interests. So there were doors that were put in. Just before President Obama left office, he basically knocked down the wall and allows now for widespread dissemination of foreign intelligence that's gathered under very strict requirements to now be shared broadly across that boundary, that border between foreign intelligence and domestic law enforcement, and to be used for lots of other things. I think that's a decision that this administration has to go back and take a look at. I think it makes us vulnerable, and I think it also makes the intelligence community and the tools that they have, it increases the likelihood that the powerful tools that they have may someday be used through foreign intelligence organizations, and they may be used against Americans, and I think that's something that we just cannot allow to happen. It's why that wall was there in the first place. It needs doors, but there needs to be a better border than what we currently have.
Former Congressman Pete Hoekstra, thanks so much for your insight this morning, sir.
Hey, great. Thank you. Good to be with you, and enjoyed the callers.
Coming up, Joshua New with the Center for Data Innovation will be here to talk about why certain government data is disappearing from the public's view.